John, the things we have to deal with.
And we're now live because I'm an idiot.
You're a
I
human
told you,
being.
professionalism is right out the door right now.
That's
Man.
right.
Okay, real quick, after just talking for literally the first 3 minutes, welcome everyone to Isles Talk, the 50th anniversary of the New York Islanders. Joining me, now he's going to have to save me, if not fire me. All things social media, Islanders, creator, the founder. Don't know why I kept that on. John, not John, well, John too, but Gary, how are you? Completely unraveled. I love it.
Take two. Take two. Okay.
Take two.
I wasn't going to say you're fired, but since you did.
No, okay. John.
You're
John,
fired.
are you still less stressed now?
Yes, I'm still less
okay,
stressed.
Good. John Panarese, you all know who he is. Never mind. And again, I'm going to be professional on this because he's actually saving me tonight from On the Board Sports and the Cross Island podcast, Mr. Will Chiarucci. Will, thank you for joining us, and we understand you are at a Red Bulls game.
Yes, the Red Bulls game is officially over. They won 2-1. And it's New England
Nice.
Revolution fans are going crazy over here. And yeah, just speaking of crazy, Islander fans going to be going crazy this year, good or bad. So I can't wait, guys. It's a pleasure to be on your show and a privilege. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me on. Can't wait to talk Islanders hockey with you guys.
So let's get into it. Let's talk Islanders hockey. What's going on, Thomas? So why do we do a preview in the beginning of September? Is it even worth it? And the answer is yes. The purpose of doing an Islanders preview now, in all honesty, we're asking the question, what is the theme for this year for the New York Islanders? Yes, they're going to have their 50-year celebration. Yes, Josh Bailey is going to be around for 1,000 games. We know all this. But the team itself, the success of the team, what are we looking for here? What's the pattern? What's the thought? What's the theme for this Islander team? And while I was looking this up and I was looking at the numbers, not just from the Islanders, but from the other teams in the Eastern Conference, it's balance, David. Balance. It's a big one. And we have a new coach. The Islanders ended up being the middle child of the Eastern Conference last season. We have a lot of veterans. We have a lot of kids. We don't know where it all puts together. We don't know where it all goes together. We've got Lou Lamoriello on one scale. We've got we've got the fans on another. And by the way, I am a Libra, October 22nd. So some of this came from me because, of course, a lot of Libras, we like balance. So you get a lot of analysts who have already said, we don't have, the Islanders don't have a lot of offense. Some fans want more offense. And Lou comes back and says, I kind of like the team where we are. I'm not necessarily worried about offense. I just worried about the goal differential. So we're going to be here tonight, gentlemen, boys and girls, everywhere here on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. We're going to be discussing the balance of the New York Islanders. What needs to be done? What's going to make you happy? What's it actually going to take for the Islanders to get back into the playoff hunt and not only make the playoffs, but really validate the 2 years that the Islanders were in that bubble or in the shortened season where they went to the Eastern Conference Finals twice. That's the goal here. So in order for me to, and this is going to be one of those shows where nobody's right. This is going to be an opinion-based. No one's really right. And at some point, it's going to be my goal to show everybody that it's going to be possible that Lou Lamoriello and the fans right here, you're both right. It may just take a little more time. So getting on to that, Gary, give me your thoughts on this season. We talked about this very briefly right before the show. Give me your thoughts on what are you looking for out of this team this year so far?
Well, there's a if you remember from your days in high school, you had to read the poems of Robert Frost, who was an American poet laureate, basically in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. Um, and one of his famous poems was about the road not taken and you know, what would have happened, or what, what your life would have been if you get to a fork in the road and you take road A, and what would have happened maybe if you took road B. Um, you know, a lot of people, on social media and everywhere else were going bat nuts because Lou wasn't making moves, Lou wasn't doing this, Lou wasn't doing that. Throughout the whole process, I'm sitting back and going, we had a year that was just unimaginable. You thought with a new arena and all the excitement and everything else that was going on, you didn't, no script could have predicted what this organization had to deal with. From the ownership all the way down. It was just a season to forget about, and everybody was looking to make this team better, make this team better. Remember, before the season started, how many expert analysts called us a Stanley Cup favorite? Barry Melrose was one. There were a few others that put us in that echelon. Okay, things happened, the road trip, the COVID. We talked about it before we came on the air. All this stuff that happened to this team, and Lou, from whatever reasons he gives or doesn't give, or how you want to slice it and dice it, feels so confident with the guys that are in this room that sometimes the road not taken is the better road. And I didn't believe that at first, but the more and more I sat with it, this is the same team. A year
Mm-hmm.
better, a year smarter. Yes, we have a different coach. We have a slightly different philosophy. Not much different, but there is some differences. And I think with some guys making certain steps, and anybody that's watched our show over the last couple of years know how we feel on certain guys. And this is the opportunity of a lifetime for a bunch of them. And, would it have been great to have Johnny Gaudreau here? Maybe. Sure. I'm sure he would. Nazem Kadri? Maybe. Sure. But you know what? Lou likes the team. He likes it as it is. People don't like Lou. That's fine. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. But my opinion right now is I think this team will definitely 100% be better than last year, just on the situation alone. It's whether guys will come and do a little more and be a little more prevalent in their play to move them up another level. And I think they can do it. I'm not saying they're winning a Stanley Cup. I'm not going to go and do that. But yes,
Too
this
early.
team will be an improved team, a smarter team. And I think all those mistakes and all those problems that happened last year is the greatest panacea to fix the problems. And, that's, basically I ended up maybe not saying much in those couple of minutes, but I have a confidence in this, and balance, as Paul said, I think is there. It's just a matter of this team gelling and being a lot more of back to the way Islander hockey was in 2018 and 2019 and 2020. And I'll leave it to that.
John, where's your balance with this team? Let's go emotional balance.
Well, I'm still a firm believer in the Lou we trust motto. I think there were a lot of circumstances last season. COVID, Gary kind of touched on, sort of summarized our season in a nutshell with the long road trip, COVID, the injuries at the wrong time. And, if you look back at a lot of the Stanley Cup champion Islanders, Brian Trottier and Gillies and all those guys, one thing they would say, you got to learn to lose and have hardship before you can win and be a winner. And I'm hoping that last season was sort of a lesson to some of these guys that you can't take for granted just because you're picked to be a Stanley Cup, one of the teams to vie for the Stanley Cup. That doesn't assure you that spot. So my feeling and my hope is that this team is going to come together and take on that underdog role again. Everybody's basically, it's funny how it takes a complete 180 what all the prognosticators and experts were saying between, the summer last season as opposed to this season. It's like, oh, now they suck. Now they're not going to do anything. They're going to finish at the bottom of the Metro. They're going to this, they're going to that. I hope that acts as a bond and a battle cry for these guys. And like Gary said, I think they're going to be smarter, and I think they're going to be harder to play against. And I think that this was a lesson learned, especially for certain players. And with Lane Lambert now as the coach, maybe we'll see a little bit of a change in how the offense plays, and maybe certain guys will get a little bit of a longer leash to go do their thing. So to me, I think that's where we're going to, I just think we're going to be a better team. Again, am I saying we're going to win the Stanley Cup? No, not at this point. But I expect better things out of this team. And I don't think sometimes not just like Gary said, the road not taken. Sometimes not doing something is the best thing to do. And I just didn't think any of those would have been nice to have any of those guys. Yeah, of course. But is it really that significant of an upgrade? Sometimes by doing that, you actually do more damage to the chemistry of a team than help them. So that's my feeling.
Okay. Well, give me your thoughts on how you feel this team could probably be more balanced, even for yourself. Give me your feelings on how you want this Islander team to look for this upcoming season.
Well, for me, I just look at this team right now, and you guys hit it all on the head. They're going to have to play the underdog role like they did back in his first year with Barry Trotz, number one. And then number two, there are a lot to have. Sure, they lost out on Dano Chara and Andy Green. That's really a subtraction. For an Alexander Romanov, who's 22 years old, but already made it to a cup final, and he's a hard-hitting defenseman. Be in that Islander defensive pairing. So you got to like that. You also got to love the fact that this is by far with this team. There's a lot of question marks on this team, of course, but we got to look at it and say to ourselves right now, all right, Alden Wallstrom's going into his third year right now. You got Kiefer Bellows going into, make or break deal right now.
Yeah, we were losing you there in the end, bud, but we get where you're going with this.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. So you think there's a lot of proving to do, and the kids have got to show something. And how do you feel about the coach coming in?
I think he put himself on mute.
Okay, that's fine. So we're going to dive into everything these three gentlemen already said coming in today as the season, because, again, I'm using the numbers, and it's supposed to basically confirm what Lou has been saying and what the fans have been saying. So we're going to move on from this, and we're going to see if we can find that balance that everyone is looking for. So I'm going to go to one part of the scale. Lou Lamoriello. The team is fine. I believe in this team. For now, we can make the playoffs. I'm okay with that. Okay. I needed to know why he was thinking that way. Not necessarily. It doesn't matter whether I agree with him or not. I don't care. I'm not a part of that. I wanted to get Lou's understanding as to why Lou was thinking that way. And what I ended up finding out was that through the 50 years of New York Islanders hockey, through 50 years of New York Islanders hockey, The Islanders, when they score 230 goals or more, they have a likelihood of getting into the playoffs with 71%. Last year, they ended up with 231. They missed it. Again, do we blame that on COVID? Do we blame it on the schedule? Lack of moves? That's your choice. Everyone's going to have their opinion on it. However, when the Islanders score 240 goals or more in a season, that's basically 3 goals a game during the season, the Islanders' chances of making the playoffs are at 80%. And for those of you who are brand new, welcome. Another one, I use percentages in hockey with everything. I do the law of percentages. I try not to do the law of averages. But what the number tells me here is that once the Islanders rack up 240 goals, unless the defense is absolutely crummy, the Islanders are making the playoffs. And last year, gentlemen, the Islanders scored 231 goals, 9 goals short of where they were supposed to be. So, from an offensive standpoint, I kind of get where Lou is going with that. But now, on the other hand, you take the other side. The fans are looking for more offense. Next season, as of right now, again, I've done all the numbers. It's preseason. Nothing is permanent here. Nothing is concrete. But it's looking like it's looking like right now you're going to need 260 goals to get into the playoffs, or at least make a decent push. So I see a balance between the fans needing more offense, and I see that balance that Lou said we're fine. So here's what I did. I took the last 3 years. I included some percentages with COVID. And the Islanders, if they all remain healthy, like John had said, you're looking at 256 goals. You're looking at 256 goals with this team in hand. Give me one moment, gentlemen. 256 goals. Is it possible if they're all healthy? Sure. But now I have a better understanding of why Lou wants to go with this team and the fans wanting more offense. But I'm also going to throw this out here, gentlemen. We had an Eastern Conference that had 8 teams with 100 points. We've now seen improvements in teams like New Jersey, Detroit, Ottawa.
Yeah,
Big time. Okay. Even Columbus to an extent.
Yep.
I'm gonna pose this question out to all 3 of you. Do the Islanders need more offense? Or did we witness a beer league in the Eastern Conference? Will, I'm gonna go with you first because I don't want to hear Gary. Is Will there? All right, John, I'm gonna go to you next. John, was this a beer league or do we need more offense?
People are probably not going to, you get accused me of making excuses or whatever, but I think a lot of last year was skewed because of circumstances. I don't think some teams were as good as 100 points because I think that especially early on in the season when you had teams decimated by COVID and you had certain teams that were, really were better than they were playing. I think the law of averages the balance would have been a lot more different in the standings if we had a normal, quote unquote, healthy season. And I mean healthy, meaning COVID not affecting lineups the way they did. All things being equal this season, hopefully the NHL has a much better way of handling COVID protocols, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, yes, the Devils, all these teams have improved, but that doesn't necessarily mean we're going to have 8 teams with 100 points again. You could just see a lot of parity here where all these teams that are good, they got to play each other, so somebody's going to lose on a given night. So I think 256 goals, I think that's fine. That's a realistic number for still allowing, even though it's 4 under what you said, I still think that's a realistic possibility of making the playoffs.
Gary, give me your thoughts. Did we just see a brutal beer league last year for the first time in decades?
Yeah, totally agree with that. I mean, we were saying it in November last year. The way the team started, not the rest of the league started, and the way the numbers are coming. You said to me on a phone conversation, he's like Gary, we could have 7 teams with over 100 points. We end up with 8. It's unprecedented. It's crazy. Yeah. The top were the top and the bottom were the deep bottom. There were very few teams. We were one of them that were lounging in the middle around that 500 level. You were either 10 or 15 games above 500 or 10 or 15 games below 500.
Right.
There was no middle ground in there at all. And that was just insane. Yes, I really think it was great that teams like New Jersey, teams like Ottawa, Columbus got better because, I think, you look at teams like Boston and that, they were like 7-1 or, 5-1 against New Jersey or some ridiculous numbers. They were doing great against the Jerseys and the Ottawas and those type of teams that it inflated their numbers. I think this year with the Devils being better, with Columbus being better, with Ottawa being better, even Montreal took a little bit of steps. I mean, they're not going to be as bad as they were last year, but they're going to improve. So they're going to have better games against the upper echelon teams in the league. So no, 100 points is going to get you better than 8 spot. It's probably, without going into heavy predictions, it's going to be in the 90s. And again, a team like the Islanders that are a defensive-minded primary function of an organization will have that ability to still play that way, try to improve their offense a little bit, but that's their bread and butter. The defensive side of the game is what's going to win them games. And I think the parity of the league and again, the Western Conference is in the same situation. Teams, the bottom feeders of the league got better. They've improved. So I really think no game is going to be easy, especially for the teams at the top. The Jerseys, the Detroit, are going to be harder for them to play against than it was this time last season. And it's going to make those teams lose games. So they're not going to get 110, 115. We always joke about the Rangers and stuff. The Rangers had an amazing year. And I said it to you last year before the season started. I said, be careful with this team. They're going to be strong. But you know what? Because the other teams got better, this year it's going to be tougher for teams like the Rangers to pull those streaks. They're still going to be a good team, no question about it. But they're not going to – I don't think they're going to win as easier as they did last year. I don't think Boston's going to win as easy as they did last year. Washington's going to slip a little bit. These upper echelon teams, Pittsburgh is going to slip.
No, definitely.
Significantly. So everyone's coming back down. The other teams are coming up, which means you're all going to be battling in that middle ground. And to me, it's great to get the goals, but, with I think arguably the best tandem in the NHL, if they play the way they're expected to play, and with you losing 40 years difference in your total age of defensemen on your team by losing Green and Chara and getting in Romanoff and bringing Aho and those guys up, you've got yourself a younger, faster, sleeker team. And I really think the Islanders are going to be able to benefit from that. So that's why I keep saying, yes, we only got Romanoff. We only did that. But with the bringing down of the age, with the parity in the league coming up, and the other teams being able to work in, I really think it's not going to be, as you called it, a beer league show in the NHL. Right. It's going to be great.
Right. Now, using a little segue here about the best goaltending tandem probably in the NHL at this point. I also did the other side of what's the magic number for the Islanders to keep their goals against down? What's that magic number that pretty much guarantees them to be in the playoffs? Okay. Obviously, with the offense, I said the Islanders need about 240 goals. Okay. The magic number for defense and goaltending is 217. Anything below 217, ladies and gentlemen, the Islanders have made the playoffs every year. Okay. Now, again, the dynasty and beer leagues messed up a lot of those totals. Well, what if the Islanders give up 250 or what if they give up 220? It's so sporadic because at that point, it was all offense that was needed. If you want a consistent team, a defensive first style and a way to get into the playoffs, just on defense and goaltending alone, if the Islanders give up less than 217 goals a game, 217 goals for the year, the Islanders have never missed the playoffs. Okay. And to further Gary's point, Corey Schneider, Semyon Varlamov, and Ilya Sorokin combined for 213 goals allowed in one of the worst schedules of all time. They ended up getting 14 goals on the empty net, but that still hampers the total for the Islanders. You have to count that.
Yep.
Okay? Because that means the Islanders were trailing towards the end of that third period by a goal at least, and they're trying to come back. That was an issue. Okay? So, I punched out the number before. 256 goals. The Islanders could probably do it. Could they do it in a Barry Trotz system? I'm a little skeptical. But we don't have Barry Trotz anymore. And I'm going to bring up this question to Sean here real quick because I like it. The Islanders need to find a balance right now on offense. Okay? Before Barry Trotz, you had Doug Waite, who was pretty much all offense. Offensive numbers went up, but they missed the playoffs. You come in with Barry Trotz, more defense and playoffs, but a lot of injuries as well. It was a grinding out style that worked for us because we were in shortened seasons. Now, we have Lane Lambert coming in. Barry Trotz's system fit that twilight core that I've always brought up, Mayfield, Cizikas, and Bailey.
Mm-hmm.
It fit the main core of Lee, Nelson, and Pelech because those are what those players really grew up with. They grew up with Jack Capuano, Islander fans. They grew up with the Barry Trotz system. So when Barry was here, yes, those numbers should have been expected from those veterans. But what really stunted the Islanders last year was the injury to Ryan Pulock. And then Matt Barzal struggled. Anthony Beauvillier struggled.
Yeah.
And again, we're going to move back here to Doug Waite. Matt Barzal had an 82-point season under Doug Waite. Even Josh Bailey. Josh Bailey is the product of every coach's system. Josh Bailey had 100 points in 120 games under Doug Waite's system. My question to Gary and John at the moment, give me your percentage that would give a happy balance for the Islanders if we're going to say 250 goals is attainable. Barry Trotz being on the defensive side, Doug Waite being on the offensive side. How much do you want Lane Lambert to tip that scale? Do you want like 80% defense, 70% defense, and more 30% defense? What's it going to take for the Islanders to get themselves balanced to attain that goal?
John, you want to go first?
Well, I'm a firm believer in Al Arbor and his philosophy. And there's an expression that says goaltending and defense wins you hockey games and wins you Stanley Cups. And to me, I don't feel. I mean, I'd like to see Barzy get a little bit more running room. I'd like to see that some of the young guns get a little bit of running room, but I still fall on the side of caution as far as I want to see the defense and the goaltending keep the GAA down. Maybe, not as tight as Barry was, but still, I'd rather see them win games by defense and goaltending in the long run. I mean, because like I said, that's what's going to win you in the Stanley Cup. That's what's going to get you there.
Going in a little deeper, I like the fact that the philosophy of this organization is not the same as everybody else's. I think it's cool in a sense. And, being in Barry's system, preaching defensive first and preaching, to play the 200-foot game the right way. And that was great because everybody else was trying to put pucks in net, but we were trying to keep them out. And yes, Matty's numbers suffered. He struggled a little bit. Numbers are down. I'm sure in his psyche, he probably is like, maybe a little happier that he's got Lane in. And, again, if you really take the 3 or 4 games that he coached when Barry was out and really sit and analyze what the type of play was going on, it was different. It was hybrid. You want to call it Barry hybrid or Barry light or whatever. It was
Right.
it was Barry, but there was a little bit of ingenuity in there. There was a little bit of freelancing in it. It was a little bit of letting guys a little loose. And what got this organization to 2 years within one game of the Stanley Cup finals in both of those years was the foundation of the defensive side of the game, the foundation of the goaltending, and this is where fans are getting crazy. They're saying, well, that's all fine and well, but we're not scoring goals. We're not doing all these things. Guys had down years. It just, the way the cards fell for this organization sucked. It really did. Bo had a terrible year, with a spurt or two in between. Bailey had a horrible year, point wise. Unfortunately, it didn't take away from Brock, who had an amazing year. But he stood up where other guys didn't come in. But I really think what you said about the 217. I was actually thinking you were going to go lower. I was actually thinking more like 205 to maybe 205 to 210. Because I think when the goaltending is at their sharpest, and I know Semyon would tell you if he was on the show right now that he had a crappy year and could have done so much better. And I think with a sharper Varlamov and with I would say maybe a slight chip on their shoulders, I seriously think that 200 goals is a attainable goal for this team. I really think so. So, and you look at the 230 to 240, that's 10 goals, that's 0.1 goal a game. So that's
Pretty
one
much.
extra goal every 10 games. I think getting Bo back to his 22 goals, getting Bailey back up to 15, 16, that's 10 goals right there. That's 10 goals on 2 guys. And you got Barzal, who's probably chomping at the bit now to get moving. You get a couple extra goals out of there. There's 15 goals right there. That's 5 games.
If Kyle Palmieri gets 4 of those 8 disallowed goes back,
Yep.
that's another 4 goals.
Exactly. And you're talking, that's another 6 points. How many points were we out of the playoffs by?
14.
15? 14.
14.
You got 6 or 8 right there. We're not even blinking an eyelash. And getting better seasons out of the other guys. That's why I'm not so and people are not going to like what I say, but I really think doing nothing helps. Yeah, again, I know what people want, and they want to jump with goals. But you know what? It's not what got you here. It's not what got you to the final. It's to the semifinals. It's not the foundation that got you there, and you still have that foundation. You still got great defense, and you got a kid in Romanoff coming in. I'm telling you, this kid, I really think is going to be a stud. He's going to be a stud. This was a steal. Lou not making the free agent moves. That was a big steal. And he's 22. So, hope that your guys that struggled last year had the chips on their shoulder, and the coaching staff gets them into that mood that's going to get them pissed and want to contribute. And if they get those guys to contribute, keeping the defensive core and the system the way it is, this team is in the playoffs, bar none, no questions asked.
John?
Nah, I agree. Absolutely. To me, if this team stays healthy, or at least relatively healthy from an NHL standpoint, and I just think we are just on the right course. I mean, you remember too, like you said earlier, Ryan Pulock, he missed how many games? He missed a significant amount of the season, and then we lost Scotty Mayfield towards the end there. Pellick was out for a while. This all little but things, and Varley, kind of came out of the gate hurt, early on in the season. So, again, all things being equal, if we take those things into consideration, it's going to make a big difference. And I, as much as I certainly appreciate and respect and like Andy Green and Big Z, but I just think having a younger defense is just going to be a better thing for us. And I think Romanoff, I agree with Gary. I think that's a lot of people are underestimating what this guy is going to bring to the team. I mean, I've spoken to a few people who I know who are Montreal Canadian fans, and they really feel that Lou stole him. And I think he could be a big X factor in the defense, as the season progresses.
I'm going to agree with both of you, but I'm not going to take sides yet. I'm not going to take sides of Lou or the fans, because in all honesty, we're going to find out. We're going to let the Islanders decide for themselves who was right, the fans or Lou Lamoriello. And that could be due to injuries. And if the Islanders lose anyway, the fans are going to bounce on Lou anyway.
Yeah.
What I want to see from Lane Lambert, and I'll use the percentage here at this point, I would love to see 85% Barry Trotz and a 15% Doug Weight, particularly more on the power play. I want to see the Islanders get more power play chances. I want to see the Islanders score more power play goals. I also want to see the defense get more involved in the offense. I need to see that total package, because we have said this before at the end of last year. When the Islanders defense, and it didn't matter if it was the same defenseman, but when the Islanders defense scored 2 points in a game or more, they went 28, 12, and 8. 28, 12, and 8. You give me, just like John said, you give me Ryan Pulock for a full season. You give me Romanoff setting up Noah Dobson for a full season. You give me a line. We're going to wait until the season starts. I don't think that first line's set in stone yet. But Sorokin has help now with Varlamov. Noah Dobson has now been complemented with Romanoff. Okay? I'm still waiting for someone to complement Matt Barzal. I don't know if putting Anthony Beauvillier with him is the way to go. I'm not sure yet. But I am in agreement with everybody here. Matt Barzal needs to take over and he needs to produce more. And Lane Lambert's system, loosening up the reins a little bit, may actually do that. Because I'm not going to lie, I would love to see a second line of Bo, Nelson, and Bailey again.
Yep.
That was a phenomenal line, especially in the bubble. Give them a full season with a little more rain, you're going to see every point total go up. And this is why I'm not taking sides with Lou or the fans here, because I don't think the Islanders are done. They may make a slight tweak or two or whatnot. You know, maybe Robin Salo for a full season with Scott Mayfield also produces a few more points. Even though he has some defensive deficiencies, whenever Sebastian Aho scored, the Islanders basically won. Okay, so for me, out of Lane Lambert's system, the 20% that I'm looking for out of that Doug Weight system is on the power play and the defenseman getting involved. If that happens, racking up 250 goals is certainly attainable. On top of the defense that's, like John just said, younger, faster, and they'll get bailed out by a healthier Varlamov and a very, very hungry Sorokin. Because I'll tell you right now, Sorokin winning the Vezina. Yeah. Sorokin's out to prove a point.
Instant motivation. Instant motivation.
That's instant motivation. Okay. So that's what I'm looking for, folks. I'm looking to see a balance from the Islanders. I'm looking to see what Lane Lambert is going to do. Lane Lambert is actually the answer to this balance. And what's he going to use on that first line? We're going to find out. You know, this is not a who's right, who's wrong, he failed, or anything else like that. It was a general theme of where can the Islanders go this season. They can go pretty far if Lane Lambert fixes everything. Okay, and again, to the fans' credit, do the Islanders need to score more? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I do.
No-brainer. No-brainer.
It's a no-brainer, and you're right. The fans are right. Maybe 240 goals may not get you into the playoffs. For 5 seasons, it didn't. The Islanders missed the playoffs 5 times in their 50-year history when they scored 240 goals or more. Again, that was back during the late 80s, early 90s beer league, and just recently in Doug Waite's system back in 2017-18. It's possible for the Islanders to rack up that many goals and still miss the playoffs. But the key to the season, again, is still going to be the defense, which is what Lou is going to want. If the Islanders' defense can hold down less than 217 goals, they've never missed the playoffs. And for the fans who want that trade or that move or what made, the problem that you have is something that Gary alluded to before. Some of these teams are going to be dropping in the standings, especially from the point total. That gives Lou Lamoriello more time to talk to other GMs who are now going to be struggling, especially with the cap. If one of these teams get hit with the injury bug, they've got a star player losing or doesn't want to be there, or they're going to start a rebuild or whatnot. Lou has plenty of time now, probably all the way through Christmas, if he wants to improve the Islanders to make another legitimate cup run. Again, we're not saying the Islanders are going for the cup this year. We never do that in September. But is this team going to be balanced enough to make another push into the playoffs? And I'm going to say yes. We're going to take a look at the rest of the Metro Division real quick, ladies and gentlemen. And this is why we're saying the Islanders are still in a decent spot. Okay? The Rangers offense, and I'm not picking on the Rangers here because I've talked to a couple of other Ranger fans, knowledgeable hockey fans as well. The Rangers are only on pace to score 244 goals. Okay, but they're also living on their defense and goaltending. The problem that Ranger fans have is that they're waiting on Lafreniere and Capo to step up and actually get those goals. Folks, if Chris Kreider doesn't have a 50-goal season again, they're not scoring 244 goals.
No.
It's going to be less than that. Granted, getting Vincent Trocheck from the Carolina Hurricanes was an absolute steal, and he may help with some of those numbers, especially getting some of those younger players on either side, because I feel Trocheck is a better centerman upgrade than Ryan Strome. But the Rangers have to get their offense together. Other than that, Shesterkin is going to be left out to dry on a lot of nights. And it's not because of the Rangers defense. It's because there isn't a lot of offense to the Rangers. And to Joe's credit, there's an agreement right now that if the Rangers don't get their offense together, they could be fading out by Christmas.
And we all know, Georgiev had a horrible year last year. And of course, he left for greener pastures. And, you got Halak as your backup. And I'm sorry, the stock on Halak, went like a company going, chapter 11. It's gone down tremendously. And if Ranger fans are going to rely on Yara Halak to play 25 games for them, I don't know. And which means Shesterkin's going to have to go 65, near 70. And I just, as great of a goaltender as he is, I don't think he's capable of doing 70 games. I really don't. And that's gonna be a problem. As I said beginning of last year, how I thought the Rangers scared me. They don't scare me at all now. They've come back down to earth. That's what I'm saying. They've coming back to earth. Pittsburgh coming down. Washington coming down. These guys are coming back to earth. And with the flatness that we are, we didn't have to do anything to improve. That's what we were saying with the balance. We did nothing to this team except get Alexander Romanov. But you know what? We improved. And people don't realize that because you got to watch everything else going on. You got to watch
the rest of the Metro.
Yeah, exactly.
So, John, I'm gonna ask you this question: when was the last time you saw the Washington Capitals win without Nicholas Backstrom?
Yeah, exactly. I don't think people understand that that's going to be a problem for them. Yeah. And I don't recall them really. Who did they get? Did they really sign anybody?
They've got a slew of people, and through the numbers, their offense looks good.
Does it? I was really not following what they did for some reason. I don't know why.
No, but that's why I'm here. For right now, Nicholas Backstrom and Tom Wilson are out for like the next 4 months. Solid. They've brought everybody else in to try to salvage this, but ladies and gentlemen, and they've got brand new goaltenders as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. This team, along with Pittsburgh, remind me of the Detroit Red Wings after they won their Stanley Cups. They are now here to make the playoffs and make as many runs to the playoffs as they can. Because right now, Washington and Pittsburgh are definitely the oldest teams in this Metro Division. And Washington right now, it's kind of like Detroit with Henrik Zetterberg. He was like that last one after Datsuk left and everything else. This is where Ovechkin's at. If something happens to Ovechkin, I can't see anything happening. I can't see Washington doing it. They will go as far as Ovechkin can take them. There's really no one there to save them.
And you look at the moment. You got an aging Chris Letang on defense. Sidney Crosby is still Sidney Crosby, and you're never going to take that away. He's still going to be a pivotal part. But Gino Malkin, I can't believe they signed him.
I was very surprised.
That was to me was. No. I mean, it's loyalty maybe, but his numbers have sharply declined. He's another one, that's going to be a shadow of his former self. And there's some players that you can see that, they're on a certain level for a certain amount of time, but then once that cliff hits, they fall faster than a rock. And I just don't see Evgeny Malkin being a factor. And they've got some good talent there, but I just don't see them repeating the regular season performance that they had. So you have Washington there, you've got Pittsburgh there. It just doesn't. And the Rangers coming back to earth. So, there's your top 3 teams right there. That's just.
And we're not saying these teams are going to miss the playoffs.
No,
I did not.
We're
say
not
that.
saying that. We're saying that this is going to be a very difficult road for some of these older teams to really make a legitimate push, especially when their core players aren't around for a good portion of the season. I'm going to move over to the Carolina Hurricanes real quick. Okay, they lost Vincent Trocheck. I think that's going to be more of a significant move than most people may realize. But for me, the Carolina Hurricanes are like the Tampa Bay Lightning before they were the Tampa Bay Lightning. They make it to the playoffs and then they find a way to lose. They're a great regular season team, but I'm waiting for Anderson to actually show up in the playoffs. They've got all the numbers there for a regular season team, but, the Rangers beat them. Granted, Ronta was the backup goaltender playing against the Rangers. But if Anderson can't stay healthy, what's the point of Carolina being there? I mean, it's like, Carolina doesn't scare me right now.
Yeah, they get Max Pacioretty, and he blows his Achilles out, right? So
yeah, he's out now for a couple of months.
Right.
He's gone till January.
Yeah. And then they signed Winnipeg Stastny.
Yeah, Paul Stastny. Right.
What's Stastny gonna do?
Nothing. He's a
It's a Band-Aid. It's a Band-Aid. And my question is
right. Yep.
My question is, how bad is that bleeding going to be in Carolina? So again, I think Carolina is going to be a good team, but come playoff time, I would honestly see Carolina making moves at the trade deadline. There's no doubt about it. Let's tip the scale here. Let's talk about some of these other teams. Philadelphia, I don't see anything coming out of Philly this year. They're actually part of my little lottery section, which means they have the least likeliest chance of making the playoffs.
Yeah, Philly, I was surprised Philly didn't make any. Wasn't aggressive enough. No.
Philly for me.
Getting Tortorella is not gonna win any.
No. He's going to try to change the culture of Philly, which I think is needed, but that would be like their only win. Let's dive in now with Columbus. Columbus gets Johnny Gaudreau. Columbus has an upside to them. What bothers me right now is the defense and goaltending.
Yes, goaltending.
Yeah, they're still on pace to give up 247 goals, boys and girls. That's not enough to cover their offense.
No.
I think with Johnny Gaudreau, they improved, but I don't think they have enough to beat the Islanders. I don't think you're going to be enough to beat the Rangers either, because the Rangers' defense is still going to be solid.
With Laine and Gaudreau, you got 2 obviously all-star players that are incredibly offensively gifted, but I don't think the rest of the team around them is going to help to pick up any slack.
Well, look at
you shut down Laine. You shut down Laine and Gaudreau. I don't see any other guys that are going to be difference makers there. So I don't feel any other positivity with Columbus. And like you said, their defense and goaltending is, you get past Werenski on defense, that's it. Nothing scares me, and their goaltending didn't improve. So yeah, it all comes back to us saying, this might have been a very fortunate postseason that, obviously we didn't make moves, but I don't think, the lower teams are going to move up, but I don't think they're going to be better than we are. And the topper teams are coming down. So it's to
It's a lot
me,
more parity. Yeah.
there's going to be I wouldn't call it parity. I just call it a freaking dogfight.
No,
That's what
yeah.
it's going to be.
I agree.
It's going to
That's
be a
true.
dogfight.
I agree.
That's true.
I agree. And I saved this team for last because this is going to be the team that I will be watching just underneath the Islanders, and that's going to be the New Jersey Devils.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see the improvement of the team right now. This is a team that, believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, they're a little more balanced than most fans may realize. This is a team that's definitely better than what their record indicated last year. And I'm going to stick with John's theme. If the Devils can stay healthy throughout this season, they may not make the playoffs, but boy, could they be the new middle child in the Eastern Conference. John, give me your thoughts on the Devils. Do you think they have a shot at the playoffs?
I think if things fall right for them and they stay healthy, yes. I think that's one of the teams that improved a great deal under the radar compared to like all the fanfare, other teams were getting. They could be scary, the Devils.
John, give me your thoughts on the Gary, give me your thoughts on the Devils. Playoffs? Close? Middle child?
Definitely middle child. But they're going to be one of those teams that come April are going to be.
Oh, I don't want to play them.
Definitely responsible for. Teams are going to make it or not, and that's what gets you scared. I was just looking back at the numbers real quick and looking at the moves they made. Yeah, it's just. They had some injury problems last year. Wood was out for a good period of time. They had some issues on defense, but I think they've made some little things. Their goaltending is going to improve. Bernie's not a star, but he's definitely improved.
Blackwood and Vanacek. Yeah.
Yes, and Vanacek. I forgot about Vanacek. Yeah, that's
They're
going to have an improved. That was their big Achilles heel to me was the was the goaltending situation. So yeah, you get a half a goal a game less out of your goaltenders, and a half a goal is going to make a big difference. We're talking about a tenth or two with Sorokin and Varlamov, but you reduce a half. That's probably at least 8 to 10 points more. So looking at percentages that way. So yeah, they're you went into Jersey and you're there, we'll get through these guys, no problem. You can't say that anymore. You can't say that with I think as you talk about Philly, I think Philly is this year's Jersey.
Yes.
So Philly's going to be one going a step further down, and Jersey's going to jump up, and Jersey's going to be that team that you look at them and say, they can, it wouldn't surprise me if they get a 5 or 6 game run, 5-game win streak, and then you're going, oh God, we got to face these guys. Yeah, they're not going to be the has-beens this year. That's for sure. They're the ones. They're that little the possible engine that could.
So, all right, boys, it's time for water cooler talk time. This is where we let the fans come in, post any other questions, comments, concerns, rumor talk, your opinion. Are you pro? Did Lou fail this offseason? Are you still going to give him a little more time? Are you going to relinquish your season tickets by doing so?
Oh boy.
How are you going to prove your unloyalty to the Islanders? Go ahead. Questions, comments, concerns.
Oh my God. I see comments about Dobson having a huge season. Yes, I think so. But I'm not going to come out and say he's going to get 75 points and what have you. Dobson's going to improve. Having Romanov next to him, I think everybody ripped Chara. A lot of people ripped Chara, but to me, there was one reason why Chara was on this team was to groom Noah Dobson.
Yep.
Andy Green
I
started
agree.
it. Zdeno Chara finished it, and I am indebted to Zdeno Chara for what he did for Noah Dobson.
I'm gonna
We
go.
all
I'm
knew.
gonna go.
We all knew. You and I knew because you were following the junior road as you always do. And
Yeah.
I just when I watched him in that first junior tournament that he won the Memorial Cup, I was like, wow. I was like, this kid's like a 25-year-old or a 19-year-old body, and you
Mm-hmm.
saw it. And of course, the NHL, was a deer. He was a deer in the headlights, which everybody expected. But Zdeno Chara put him on the right path, and he is looking so good. He looks so good the last 2 months of the season, and I think he's going to take that further step. But let's not put him in Calder, and for Calder Trophy consideration just yet. I think he needs one
Norris
more
Trophy.
North
year.
Trophy, yeah.
He needs
Yeah.
Norris Trophy, right? Calder. What am I thinking? Calder. He needs one more year. He needs one more year of seasoning, and I think having Romanov with him, I think is going to be a great tandem. Because Romanov is again, despite his size, he is so physical. He's bruising, as John said earlier. His friends in Montreal say we stole him. I like, we were talking draft and we were talking that 13th pick, you and I, Paul, and you were saying, the guy that was going to be there. And
Frank
I think
Nazar.
where you had him right.
Yep.
You had him right at 13.
I had him right. I had him at
what
13.
What do we say about him though? We said, oh, he's 3 years away.
Oh, at least.
He's 3 years away
At
from
least.
being in the league, let alone contributing and being an imp. So, for that 3-year difference, we got 3 years of Alexander Romanov.
Yeah.
And anybody would take that deal. So I really think that Dobson now on his own will take a bump or two because he won't have Zdeno there with him. But he'll, it's like Miyagi-san. Everybody, Daniel remembered everything Miyagi-san taught him because I just binge watched 5th season of Cobra Kai last night.
Okay.
So everything he's going to learn, he's going to bump it on the road a little bit, but he's going to remember it. And then all of a sudden, that switch is going to click. But again, not this season. He will be good. He'll be fine, no problem. But 23, 24, watch out, because that's when I think he's going to take off. And he's going
And
to
the only other side note.
Go ahead.
The only other side note about thanking Chara, I'm also going to add thank you, Johnny Boychuk. Thank you, Dennis Seidenberg.
Yeah.
All those Boston Bruin defensemen from that Stanley Cup time, they all groomed Noah Dobson at some point in some way.
Yeah.
You don't get better tutelage than that, folks. At all. Yeah. So we do not have any questions, comments, concerns. That's fine. We're going to leave the broadcast like this. There is a balance. There is a scale here. And as we were talking through this, and it made me realize that Lane Lambert's actually that scale.
Yeah.
Lane Lambert is the one who's going to show whether Lou was right or the fans were right, or at some point in time during the season, everybody was right. I think more offense is going to come to the Islanders. I think it's going to be done in-house for now. And when the time comes, and if with everything that Gary and John have been talking about, if the Islanders are in first, second, or third place in the division by December, I think you have to see Lou Lamoriello make the move to make that legitimate Stanley Cup run. And then we get what Joe and I have been saying now for years, that this is year 4 of a 4-year window for the Islanders to make a run. And depending on who, go ahead.
Can I interrupt? Sorry, I just thought about this because we didn't really, we talked about it before the show, but we didn't talk about it here. Okay. And I think it's a good thing to talk about. With Lane, I think, as we were saying, I think his philosophy and I think his style of play is going to lead to more offensive opportunities. Not a ton. It's not going to go. It's not going to go to a curve this big. It's
Right.
going to go on a smaller curve. But, and again, everybody that's watched our shows in the past 2 years know how critical, and it's not negative critical. It's optical critical of two players, Oliver Wahlstrom and Kiefer Bellows. Because of the system they were sitting in, things weren't going their way. And you can see the frustration in their faces. You can see how things were going. And when they weren't doing the things that they were supposed to do in the Barry Trotz system, they suffered for it. With the somewhat loosening of that bolt that Lane will do, it is unbelievably, critically, immensely, any other adjective you can describe, important for number 20 and number 26 to take this advantage and not only run, but sprint a freaking marathon with it. This is the opportunity. You always talk about guys saying this is their moment. Well, you know what? This is unbelievably their moment. And they better be sitting around, not playing on Instagram, as I see them do, and put the focus on now. Because there is no better time than this time with a brand new coach and a slight change of philosophy in this organization to take the reins and go as fast as you can and do the right things while keeping still the philosophy of the 200-foot game. They've got an opportunity to seize a moment. Everybody was saying how Wahlstrom and Barzal would be an unbelievable tag team. And I really think they can. But it's up to Oliver to take that advantage, but keep an eye on everything else that's going on in this organization. Because there were sometimes you could see he wasn't looking with an eyes wide open. It was blinders. It was just one focus, one thing only. But he's got to open those eyes up. Kiefer's got to open those eyes up. I saw in the World Championships that Kiefer looked. There was a different look in Kiefer Bellows' play, even though it was only a small data set to look at. But there was a definite different side of Kiefer Bellows' game that I saw in the World Championships. He's got to take that and move it up. Oliver's got to take that and move it up. To me, of nothing else in this organization, of the numbers that you talked about, the percentages were absolutely important. But there is such a big what if with those two guys. And we all know, everybody that's sitting on here making comments on this board knows what Oliver Wahlstrom can be, what Kiefer Bellows can be. And training camp is starting in 4 days, 5 days,
give or take.
They better hit the ground running and running fast, because if they don't, it's going to stunt them big time. Sorry, I had to let that in because I felt that was the last important thing we really had to talk about. And again,
Sure.
It's balance for the organization, but these next 6 weeks are so important to these two kids for the rest of their careers. I think these are the most important 6 weeks they're ever going to have. And if they want to make a statement, do it now.
I will throw Robin Salo in there as well.
Yes. Okay.
I will throw Robin Salo in there as well.
Yep.
Robin Salo, Kiefer Bellows, Oliver Wahlstrom, they need the camps of their lives. They need it. And it doesn't matter it doesn't matter for me whether Bellows is that 14th forward. As long as he makes the team, he's going to get the playing time, because I think Lane is going to hold players accountable this time. And if not, Lou's going to tell Lane, players are accountable. Sit these old guys down. Let these kids run. But I agree with you. This is their year. Salo, Wallstrom, Bellows. When they have their opportunity, they must take it. John?
Well, let's put, just kind of building on what you were saying. We've been saying this whole time about goals, getting up to 256 goals or whatever. But look at it this way. Let's just say hypothetically, Oliver Wahlstrom gives us 20 to 25. All right. Bellows gives us 10, 15 plus. Salo comes in and adds, we've seen flashes of his offensive ability. So think of how many goals that just increases to everything else we've spoken about. Because I think Wahlstrom can give us 20, 25 goals. I think he's got that talent there, especially if he does end up playing for any reason with Barzell.
And for those asking about Bodie Wild, he's going to be part of my Bridgeport segment, which I'm probably not going to do until the season starts because I want to know who's in Bridgeport. But I'm going to go with a theme. I actually have a theme for Bridgeport this year. And that theme is, who is my next Trent Hunter? For those of you old enough, those of you who are old enough, Trent Hunter, and Kimmy will love this. Trent Hunter showed up in 2002 with at the time the Bridgeport Sound Tigers had a very good year, went deep into the playoffs. The Islanders brought him up.
They went to the
and
finals.
He became a playoff sensation for that year. That's going to be my theme for the Bridgeport Sound Tigers this year. Who is going to be my Trent Hunter? And that could be a defenseman as well. I want to see, again, something to what Gary just alluded to with Oliver Wahlstrom and the other two. Who's going to take the reins in Bridgeport, step up, and then maybe contribute in the playoffs for the Islanders this year? We'll talk about that in a couple more weeks when we get a better idea as to who is going to be on Bridgeport and whatnot. Wahlstrom needs to be given power play time. Jeff, that's what we were talking about. Lane Lambert needs to find a way to get more power play opportunities first. The Islanders need more power play opportunities first, and then see if he can work the power play in a different manner that works for all the players. But I agree, Wahlstrom, and that's also going to John's point. If you want Wahlstrom to get 20 goals, you got to put him on the power play. He's got the shot to do it.
No doubt.
So, folks, I hope you find a little bit of balance in this show tonight. We're going to find out, who made the better decision, Lou Lamoriello, or maybe the fans were right. We'll find out during the season. But for now, again, for me, if the Islanders as a team, if they can stay below 217 goals as a team, they're in the playoffs. They did it last year, but again, with the injuries, with COVID, they lost 14 games due to empty net goals. You change that, you may improve the offense. You bring in Lane Lambert, maybe you can help out that young core, Beauvillier, Barzell, and Pullock. Put it all together, you may have a balanced 50th season of the New York Islanders. Hopefully, it'll be a successful one with the Stanley Cup coming. So, thank you guys for joining us. We will be back next week. We're going to do another preview theme with the Atlantic Division, where we're just going to take a look at the teams, compare them real quick, and we're going to see, where they line up with other teams of the past. So we hope you enjoyed this segment. We'll see you sometime next week. Enjoy this 50th season, folks. I think it's going to be a lot better than most are predicting. So let's go, Islanders.
There's one more important question, Paul, that I think I've got to bring up before we end the show.
Okay.
Is Paul Kreischer going to make an appearance at UBS Arena this year?
Yes.
I'm doing the sign of the cross, John, right now.
I know. Before we do that, Gary, how do they find you on social media?
Well, like I said, unfortunately, I don't go on as much as I'd like to, but at Isles Mets 63 is my my new. It used to be G Harding WGB when I was on the radio, but John and I decided to I decided to kind of force our retirement, if you will, from radio, and but Isles Mets 63, and like I said, hopefully once the season starts. I know Paul's going to be a help to help us to do this, but John and I are going to try to not do typewritten articles for Owls Talk, but we're going to do some audio work. Especially when I'm on the train heading to the city, I can find a way to, spend 10 minutes and do an audio article on what's going on. And we hope to get more involved with that this season.
John, where can they find you?
Not that I do much with social media because I haven't had really a reason, but if we, get back into the swing of things and we're doing the audio, it's at Hockey Blindside. So,
but by the way, we gotta also put the fact in. John was a television star last week. For those of you that don't watch, John, you want to tell everybody how you made the sojourn into television?
My 15 minutes of quote unquote fame, you mean? The Dr.
It was
Pimple
an hour
Popper
show. You had more than 15 minutes.
Well, I mean, if you put the segments together, 20 minutes maybe. But Dr. Pimple Popper, I can't remember the name of the episode. Fast Times at Something High. I forgot.
Something High, yeah.
Yeah. There's two segments with me in there. My experiences with Dr. Lee, Dr. Sandra Lee, who is Dr. Pimple Popper. I was out there November of 2021 and March of this year to have lipomas removed. If you have a weak stomach, you might want to turn away at certain parts of the show, but I'm there. I'm sure it's on YouTube. I'm sure it's probably on the TLC archives if you have the app. But it was on this past Wednesday at 9 p.m. and I think they rebroadcast it a few times on Thursday as well.
Yeah, you can get it on demand too.
Yeah.
Like I said, John had a rough time with that, and he still got some issues. But like I said, I'm knowing John as long as I have, over 20 years, he took it like a champ. He did great. Like I said, it was a really interesting episode, and definitely go check it out. John, as John said, the story at the end of his show appearance, the story's not over yet. He's still got some issues to go, but like I said, it was a great episode, and definitely go check it out.
And we'd like to thank Will for coming on and attempting to do the show. He texted me during the show. He apologized for the interference. He will be back on at some point during the season. He's welcome back anytime he wants.
Absolutely.
So we thank Will for coming on. And you can find me on Twitter at P_Kreischer. Don't forget to follow Isles Talk on Twitter, Facebook, and like and subscribe on YouTube. We are there. Folks, we'll be back next week. Make sure you bring your questions, comments, concerns, and find your balance for this season. Everything's going to be fine. All right? Namaste. Have a good night, guys. Bye.